Today, we want to thank everybody for coming out, all of the press, all of the fans, everyone that's here today. We want to say thank you for coming. Today, we're going to hear some really compelling new evidence that you've never heard before. Our legal team will explain all of that to you. We will have updates on Tory Lanez, Mr. Peterson, on how he's doing. It's really sad to see the situation that he's in, and we think it's time. Enough is enough. It's time to bring the brother home.
Say it with your chest.
Welcome to the Chesley Major channel, Chesley Major Media. I'm your host, Chesley Major, and we about to get into it in a major way. Let's go. What's going on, fam? What's happening? What's hap? Welcome to Chesley Major Media. I'm your host, the one and only Chesley Major. And man, we got a new update on the Tory Lanez case. But before we get started, do me a solid. Smash up the likes, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that. Okay, let's get into it. Tory Lanez serving 10-year sentence in California prison for the shooting of Megan Thee Stallion. It's been said that he's been railroaded. We all kind of already knew that Tory didn't do it, but if you know, you know. But there's been some new developments on this case, and I ain't gonna even hold you. We're gonna dive straight into the new evidence, and I want y'all to see what's going on and how this really played out. Check out this footage, and I'm gonna come back to you.
I would like to bring up our lead consultant, Mr. Walter Roberts.
Good morning. We are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanez. Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
Now, did you get that? After the New York Post reached out to all parties involved in this case, days later, he was attacked. Now, let's get back into it.
Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out, but given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial.
Now, just in case you don't know, Kelsey Harris is Megan Thee Stallion's friend that was in the car that night of the shooting.
As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Now, this has been said all over the internet since this case has begun. Everybody knew that Meg and Kelsey had a little beef going on because Kelsey had Tory first, and she was hot that Meg slid in, allegedly.
Never even touched that gun. Never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly.
Now, Sean Kelly is the guy who just so happened to be looking out of his window, and he has a first-hand account of the whole snafu. He testified to what he saw, and it was not Tory shooting Meg. Let's get back into it.
Who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. Passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson.
That doesn't make a lick of sense. 3 potential suspects and you only take the DNA of 1 person? Make it make sense. You can't, because it don't. Let's get back into it, though.
Even though unknown DNA was found on the gun, why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Miss Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted. And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do.
I agree. I think they do need to take a deeper dive into this case. But let's check out the guy who was actually snooping around and doing his due diligence on the case from the New York Post.
I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell, the media member who was working on that op-ed for the New York Post.
My name is Gianno Caldwell. That is spelled Gianno, Caldwell, Caldwell. I am the founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, at caldwellinstitute.org. I am also a member of the press for almost a decade now. I've been looking into Daystar Peterson's case for almost 6 months now, professionally known as Tory Lanez. And after reviewing the evidence, the reporting, and the legal analysis, I've come to the conclusion that Tory Lanez was railroaded by the former district attorney, George Gascon. He was also wrongly convicted. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, George Gascon would do whatever in his power to ensure that Tory Lanez lost that case. Tory Lanez's defense team have alleged the withholding of exculpatory evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, among other issues that I was compelled to write an opinion piece for the New York Post. It is true that last week, the New York Post editors reached out to 3 parties, one being George Gascon, Megan Pete's team, and Kelsey Harris. It is also true that Megan's team was the only ones that responded back for that request for comment. I had some glaring questions, and that was the reason for this op-ed. Things didn't make any sense to me, many issues in this case, and I was shocked by the lack of interest from the media to ask very simple questions. There were multiple people with gunshot residue on their hands that night. Why didn't all individuals have the residue tested, their DNA tested on the weapon? That's a legitimate question. According to the prosecution, Tory was excluded from the clip of the gun, and according to Tory's defense team, they said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself. Another piece that stood out to me, the call that the prosecution alleged Tory made confessing to a crime. I listened to that call. I'm sure many of you have as well. I didn't hear a confession. But what really shocked me about it is if my best friend was shot maliciously by someone just 2 or 3 hours before, I wouldn't have answered the call, or if I did, I wouldn't calmly have a conversation with the individual of it. And certainly I would ask, why did you shoot my friend? And more importantly, I would never have given you my current location out of fear of you finishing the job. That was something that stood out to me. I also, in my op-ed, discussed Kelsey Harris pleading the Fifth Amendment. She wasn't accused of anything by Megan P. or the police, and to my knowledge, she wasn't under any investigation. So why plead the Fifth?
Now that is a good question. Most of the time, people plead the Fifth when they don't want to incriminate themselves in the crime. But let's continue.
What also shocked me is the prosecution gave her immunity. For what? What did she do? Is there an allegation of her doing something? I'm not aware of that. Maybe some of you can answer that question today. During the time of trial, George Gascon, just to take you back to where we were at that particular point, he had just barely won a recall attempt. He lost support in many key demographics of voters. Crime was up in Los Angeles County. And this case would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning. His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice is the misuse of gun enhancement charges, a sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lanez's case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose to provide enhancements to Tory. And in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement. That's interesting. Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements?
Just in case you didn't know who George Gascon is, it's this guy. Yeah, right there. But let's get back into it.
You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon did recommend enhancements.
This right here shows you how he rides for his people while simultaneously trying to throw us under the bus and under the jail. Let's continue.
You premeditated a teenager and another individual, brutal crime. Why would you recommend enhancements, but you would recommend them for Tory? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. A 4'9" R&B singer versus a cartel hitter that actually premeditated the hit.
He also didn't pursue sentencing enhancements for the Syphilis General Hospital actor Johnny Victor in Los Angeles in 2024. There's a lot of issues with this case. Many I think that the media should be pursuing all angles of it. We should not allow there to be unanswered questions. we should pursue open questions without fear or favor to anyone. That includes Mr. Tory Lanez. In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we take those words seriously, we must act when injustice is allowed to fester in plain sight. But justice also demands that we protect the innocent and stand against politically motivated prosecutions. This is what I believe to happen here. When we imprison the innocent while violent offenders walk free, which is what George Gascon has often done, we undermine the very foundation of our legal system. Mr. Peterson was never given a fair trial, free from bias, political interference, and media-driven pressure. His continued incarceration erodes public trust and diverts focus from the real work of keeping our community safe. Further, while incarcerated, Mr. Peterson was recently stabbed in prison, as many of you know, a tragic incident that underscores the urgency of this situation and the risk to his life while this case remains unaddressed."
So yeah, me myself, I also think they need to re-examine this case. There seems to be a lot of foul play going on in this case, and to be honest, people have been saying this from day one. And this dirty prosecutor, Mr. George Gascon, he's had it out for Tory Lanez from day one. So, with the new evidence that's been found, which a lot of us already knew what was going down, y'all get down in the comment section. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the update and the breaking news in the Tory Lanez Megan Thee Stallion case. I would love to hear your thoughts, guys. Do you think he should be freed and pardoned? Or at least his sentence commuted? Or do you think he should sit in jail and rot until somebody makes another attempt on his life and possibly even takes his life? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, like and share this. It helps me in the algorithm. I am Chesley Major. Thanks for watching.